Good.
Good.
Fear is a mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah.
But I feel like we I put out this video in the build up to this last night because I
Mm-hmm.
was so excited. I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
Already happened, whatever. And of
You're
course,
like
what I'm
a
referring.
you're like a kid on Christmas Eve, wanting to get all your packages.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, and that was the what I'm referring to, what I'm going crazy about over here. Like, hopefully the
Mm-hmm.
camera won't jerk around too much, but the Dune Part Two, the trailer came out today. But
Mm-hmm.
first, I wanted to pay the bills, take care of business, so to speak, and share about who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're the
Is
first, the
there?
last, the Nerdom, and yeah, that's you can see our various videos there. We have a big catalog of videos. I think might be paused. I don't know if the video may be paused too.
Unbelievable.
Are you there? Guess we'll give him a moment. Like I said, oh, I don't
Back.
know. You're
Hopefully
back.
you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Hear me? See me?
Yes.
All right.
I hear
Sorry
you.
about that, folks. I don't know what happened, but my computer just decided that it was going to take a little nap there while we're live here. So we are live, and I'm, like Thomas said, the first last on Nerdum. If you could comment, subscribe, whatever, dislike, that's fine too. But Thomas was very gracious to want to hop on today to watch a video on Dune Part Two. And without
Mm-hmm.
further ado, might as well jump into it. Are you ready,
Mm-hmm.
my fine sir?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
before
Let's.
anything else happens here.
Right. Oh, and we'll be pausing it throughout to give a little commentary, and then also maybe to avoid the copyright gods that are known as Warner Brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead and cut in, and then I'll hit the pause button, and we can go from there. So here we go.
It's
Yep.
breathtaking. When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
I don't believe you.
So yeah. So we're getting to know. Yeah,
In
we're
the shadows
getting to
of
know the characters
Arrakis
again.
lie.
And yeah, it's a nice little intro there to get us.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted to enter some commentary. Don't you find it funny at all or humorous that the fact that this was put out on May 3rd, one day shy of a very, very famous meme day, practically, that like I have participated in or tweeted about or shared about on Facebook for probably a decade, as I
Yeah.
recall. But of course, I'm referring to May the 4th for Star
Yeah.
Wars.
So may the third be with Tune.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's kind of funny. Maybe that's symbolic that Dune came before Star Wars. Maybe I don't know.
Yes, yes, and maybe Star Wars was heavily influenced by Dune, maybe.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated to see like what the world looks like beyond what we saw before. Of course, this is like
Hmm.
this should be an ace in the hole
Hmm.
cakewalk because the back half of the Dune the book is famous for being
Yeah.
pretty action packed. But with that being said,
Yes.
we'll get
Keep
back into
going.
it.
Yeah.
Many secrets, but the darkest of them all may remain.
Aurelian.
The end of House Atreides.
Your father didn't believe in revenge.
What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
So, what was your opinion on Erlon? The casting of Erlon.
I think without being too much of a super fan, and I full disclosure, I love this. I was really looking forward to it. I think that she's going to be a good fit. I really do. I mean, it's really hard to tell from a trailer, and who knows? This trailer could be
Yeah.
cut way different than the movie. They do that all the time
Right.
too. I don't think so, but
Right.
from what I've seen, she actually plays a pretty prominent part in this trailer. I
Yeah.
believe, at
Right.
least for
Hmm.
flashbacks. So I didn't see any overacting or like
Hmm.
kind of like telltale signs
Yeah.
of it. I'm just kind of interested, like It'll just be funny how they continue. But yeah, you saw the
Yeah,
aspects there of the jihad,
yeah,
or so it's just kind of like that build up because you know what you're going to be served up. But
yeah,
there's a few other things too. I can't wait
yeah.
for
And I
you to see them.
guess the biggest difference for you and I is that when we saw the first movie, we hadn't read the book yet, and now that we've seen the movie, we have read the book. So we're coming into the part two with a little bit more information and a little bit more expectations as far as what's to come. But yeah, Erlon, yeah, I think they picked a nice choice for that. I know there was some in the discussion group that we're on Facebook. There's been discussions on whether or not she's a good fit, but I think she is, and I think this indicates her talking about Paul. That harkens back to the book in that she does. There's little excerpts before each chapter
Yep.
of her history. She does a history of Paul and of Arrakis. So that those little clips indicate that maybe, yeah, like you said, she's gonna be a little bit more prevalent and maybe narrate a little bit in this uh, in the movie.
Yeah, I don't see how you could screw up being a narrator. Of course, we covered the 1984 Dune, which had a little bit.
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to be dissimilar from that format wise,
Hmm.
like as far as narration.
Hmm.
So we'll see. But so that was big right there because you see the Baron Harkonnen is actually it looks like he's going to make it back to Arrakis
Hmm. Yep.
for that. So that's interesting.
Yeah. What was that? What's that thing that they're putting their fingers into? I don't remember that from the book.
Oh, which one was it? The Harkonnen soldiers or
Or I
somebody
don't
else?
know if you. I guess you could take it back a few frames to see it again. There's a lot of stuff in this that flashes,
Oh yeah.
flashes real quick. So
Here we go.
yeah, right there.
Oh yeah, I think that's just like a siege entrance maybe to
Okay.
like maybe it obviously like you wouldn't have a lock on a door that wouldn't be special to a special area or something. So I envision that being like a locking mechanism
Sort of like
to
your
get
thumb lock on your iPhone, huh?
yeah something that kind of tie back to the box thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be an easy win, and that obviously looks like you would stick your I wouldn't want to, but you stick your four fingers in there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where they get to this scene, which is the ceremony, because there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple that were due for. But
And there's that
Have you
Fayed.
ever had a dream of
Be interesting to see how they portray him.
yeah, and you also saw like there was it's obviously black and white, which I didn't catch
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first time I saw this earlier today, and it's been about 12 hours since I've seen this anyway. So
Hmm.
I'll I guess I should have prefaced that, but in
Yeah, I
any case.
was I was surprised by that. They're playing around with the how it's being filmed and how they're going to be doing it. So yeah, that's always interesting whenever they are a little bit more creative. Like we were talking with our previous podcast on Martin Scorsese and him playing around with filmmaking and that, and then also playing with narration. It kind of
Yep.
reminded me when I was watching this. The other thing is, my mom's a big fan of that last Elvis movie, which Austin Butler was in that as well as
Okay.
Elvis. So I
Heard good
pulled
things
up a
about that.
yeah, I pulled up a clip from this preview and said, "Oh, look at Elvis now. He's bald and weird looking." She goes, "Oh wow, he must be a good actor." And,
That's a hallmark of a good actor. Like we were
yep.
talking about Robert De Niro too in last week's show, was talking about the Goodfellas and the fact that I made a comment about, and this is not original commentary, but it's still true. Robert De Niro could do many different. He could do the gangster. He could do the comedian. He could do the father-in-law. He could do, a very boring button-down CIA retiree. Whatever. So like he's got range. So maybe I think that's a good thing. And I think it just goes to say that the bridge they're building here, the bridge they're building, it looks like it'll support quite a bit of weight. So like
Hmm.
I'm hopeful. Like, you don't know until you actually
Yeah,
see it, but who knows? But
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. So like that's just good in general.
Right.
But
What about your first ride?
oh yeah, this is yep.
Yep.
This is gonna be amazing.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
try to impress anyone.
Yeah, it was underwhelming in the 1984 version, so I'm expecting this version to be pretty amazing. From what we
I,
see in this clip,
yeah,
yeah, it looks great.
everything about the first movie that you show when they show you the grandiose nature of the world and whatnot, it's just monsters. The scenes that they take to kind of show you this is serious business or whatever.
We
Yeah.
don't know that. Be simple. Be direct. Nothing fancy.
I understand.
Nothing fancy.
What's that?
Nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy.
You will never lose me, Padre.
Yeah, I really like the black and white look of that's the big fight thing that's wasn't in the 1984 version, but was
No,
the
and it looks very, very. It really reminds me of Ridley Scott, Gladiator. That it really that's what I can't. How can you not think that seeing that? So
yeah.
that'll be cool to see how Villeneuve does it
Yeah.
in his way.
Yeah, and it kind of sets him up as a formidable and evil villain
Right.
with that scene that really kind of sets things up for later. And also, I like in this clip we get glimpses of the person that Paul is becoming, and one of the things I was kind of worried about with Timothy playing Paul, he got the kind of the meek kind of kind of coming to age kind of character.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
curious how him becoming the Messiah, how that was going to come out. If he was able to pull that through. But from the glimpses I see in this, it looks like he's doing a good job here.
I was really worried about like if I go back in my mind's eye and I think back to like when I first heard this movie Dune. I hadn't heard nothing about it, and then probably about a month before it came out, I remember hearing something and like watching a trailer and being like, I was interested, but I did make note of how small he is. And then around that, not too long before then, though, I was good with it because he plays in The King, a Netflix original movie. And I mean, that's one of my favorite movies with him in it, and he did a great job on that. So like I know he's a really good quality actor, and I look forward to just seeing how he delivers on that performance because I don't think we'll be disappointed.
Right.
But it is funny because the only thing that we got was a whole shit ton of foreshadowing about Chani in the first one, like mainly through flashbacks. Like she was probably half of her views. So now it's like kind of nice to actually see her.
Yeah, her presence in the movie. Yeah.
Right.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope! May thy knife chip and shatter.
That I'm not gonna lie, that whole kind of dial up there, like that hit the spot for me. I just can't wait until like they had kind of like a roiling fight scene that they flashed back to in the first part one as well. That was just kind of over the top and really cool. But we'll see how they do.
Hey, guess what, Mike?
What's that?
There was no Jokey McJokerson at the end like a Marvel movie, Marvel trailer. You get actually good writing, drama, and kind of lifts your spirit, and you go, yeah, I want to see that movie.
Yeah,
Instead
I'm
of
gonna be on.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
wacky, I'm wacky.
right, right. Or endless exposition telling you what the fuck is going on. Like
Hmm.
that. Obviously this is R-rated here at this hour, but um, aside from that, the other thing too that I wanted to say that was related to this was it just it's a different property and it has its own gravity. And I think people have been starved for that for a really long time. Like where it's just
Yeah,
a story. It's not like
yeah, yeah. Let's. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There's great to have stuff for kids, but sometimes the adults want to watch something.
right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 So, oh man, there's a lot to unpack there, but I think the thing that I would say is that kind of echoing off of what you just said there about Marvel. It's just it's kind of nice that this is going to be something that is going to bring. I mean, eventually, I'm sure I'm sure the honeymoon will fade, and we'll just devolve back into our tribal whatever, corner pockets. But until that happens, it seems like this is bringing a whole lot of people together.
Yeah.
Um, and really am looking forward to.
Yeah, and if you remember back in the day, a couple of years ago, we were all still kind of quarantining, and the first part one came out when uh, Warner Brothers was doing the HBO Max simultaneous releasing in theaters and
Yep.
on Max, so you really didn't get a good gauge as far as how well a movie did. Obviously, Warner Brothers has how many times people watch the movie on uh, HBO Max. Of course, they're not going to tell us, but they have that raw data, and that was enough to make them decide to do a part two because that wasn't a guarantee when they made part one. And when it came out, that was when the deciding factor on whether or not a part two would happen. So I'm very excited to see how well part two does in the theater. This is definitely one of those movies that's gonna make me crawl out of my dungeon and and take a watch on it on the big screen.
Yeah, I
This,
kind of
yeah.
wanted to point out some highlights here. When I did this around this time, 12 hours ago, before it was even up, in anticipation for it, because I was so excited, like a kid on Christmas or Hanukkah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
either one works. This was at like 5.8K up likes and no down likes. And now it's like 12 hours later and it's number one on trending, it says there in the headline. And
Hmm.
it's like two almost 2500 um uh
Upvotes.
upvotes. Yeah, so
Yep.
that and like 3K downvotes, dude. Like I'm good. Like like if there's one thing that the fandom does do, I don't believe that they brigade in a coordinated fashion. I think that's ridiculous. I think that
Hmm.
um if a good chunk of people, and what is this played like six almost 6.5 million times in the
Hmm.
last 11 hours, and it's still got steam.
Hmm.
If this one sucked, I would no doubt that people would like it. But why is it that why is it that we accept that the upvotes are good and valid, but why is it that these companies and stuff, like, why do they do this downvote thing? And then they assume it's brigading, or it's like, no, maybe it's just your product sucks. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
like what you're showing us sucks. Like, did you ever think about that? And not everything is about you.
Oh, a question: is the comments still turned on?
I believe so. Yep.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! Yeah.
Yeah, might as well check out a couple. Yeah, so this is just positive things. Like, a lot of these are very positive. Um, yeah. That's
You put
cool.
out,
That's cool.
yeah, you put out something that the majority of fans like, and there's nothing in it that um, screams that it was wedged in because of a certain group wanted it in.
Right, right.
It was created organically, and they got the best people for the roles.
Yeah.
Without what they call it, stunt casting. There's no stunt casting to it. There's you know
No.
it,
And
it all makes sense.
Yeah, and there's this one I highlighted a comment like there's somebody who's really really looking forward to it. Yeah, I wouldn't say I got goosebumps, but am I did I geek out a little bit during my lunch break? When I saw this at work today. Hell yeah. Like it's just so nice to see something that is like looking forward to it, especially like and I know it's not just me, but there's been a lot of people looking forward to it, and the fact that it was so successful despite that that release to streaming and the theaters at the same time is just testament to the fact that like people dig this and they want more of it. So, and
Yep.
I kind of covered. I was wondering if you had any commentary. I kind of went off on a little bit of a exploratory discussion on what is your opinion of like say the Star Wars and how they came up. Every one of those movies was built after the fact, right? So like not saying that Lucas didn't have a plan. He did. He had a vision. He had a plan, and that did work for the first few films. Obviously, it did. But after that happened, and we got a little bit longer in the tooth, the source material expanded quite a bit, and then ultimately got canceled, and then ultimately got completely reconfigured and changed into what we know today, which is fine if you like that. If that's for you, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Personally, for me, I got off the Star Wars merry-go-round a long time ago. For certain things, like I still keep an ear. Obviously, I care.
Yep.
But I'm not gonna go on the point to like rail against it or whatever. Like, as I think if you get enjoyment, and you never know, they can always turn the corner and make this whole thing work. You just don't know. Trying to be positive here, I'm not very, but the fact that you have any kind of source material that you could imagine for Dune and the Dune verse and like where they take this. Obviously, this is like one bad review or one bad thing away from maybe not expanding so much on it and making more content around it. But I would argue some people just don't care for his son's writing, Brian Herbert I'm talking about, and Kevin J. Anderson, and that's fine. But I would argue even if you don't like it, it's still going to be a tighter, more coherent, better quality product than what we have today, where it's just ad hoc and it's like it's other people away from the source that just didn't know like when to listen to. They just didn't nail it. In my opinion.
Well, yeah. With Star Wars, for the longest time, you had George Lucas at the head, and he had the ultimate yay or nay on anything. So he had a singular vision. Now he didn't have it all mapped out, but who does when they're writing? I'm sure Frank Herbert didn't have all of Chapter House in mind when he was doing the first Dune book. I think those actually came up from his imagination later on. But you have that singular vision. So you need that figurehead. Whereas when Disney took over, it looked like they cut off the head, so to speak, of Star Wars with the saying goodbye to George Lucas and not him saying that he would have input, but really they didn't listen to any of his guidance from all the stories we hear. So there wasn't, and then I guess Kathleen Kennedy was the head of it, but I think she let everybody kind of do what they wanted. And when you got a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, they just run around and do what they want. And that's sort of like what I see happen with Star Wars. And sometimes good stuff comes out of that, and sometimes it doesn't. But it doesn't make for a cohesive thing. Like whereas, say, the Marvel movies, like them or hate them, they were all done under Kevin Feige's head. So in his vision, and then with the future Dune books, like you said, with Brian Herbert and Anderson doing them. those two people are the kind of the running force on it. So yeah, it's going to have a singular vision that they've envisioned. So yeah, it
Right.
just
I think it runs in two trains. Like one, you have to have source material, right? Okay, so we have that covered backwards in history, forwards in history. For the most part, stories are told. Again, um, I think that his writing is tighter and more intertwined to the spirit of the source than you will ever get with what we have with Star Wars. Like where it's kind of like there's a lot more deciding decision makers that enter the box with Disney Star Wars, and it has over time. And I'm not trying to be dismantle it or anything like that, but I am trying to make a point that at least with Dune, you have known bona fide authors, and that's just the backplane. That doesn't mean that everything that they chose to write about in the book or whatever, if it makes it to the small screen or the big screen, that doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily hit that spot, because you still have to have that director who can take this and make turn into that, and then stay focused on that over time. And
yeah.
I would actually, I also want to make this point too, before he beat it to dead too much. But Villeneuve definitely had limitations on this. I think that he was given carte blanche, and I think that he was given a solid budget. But beyond that, he still was told the no, I'm sure. Occasionally here or there, they still trusted him. And I would love to hear that story as the years go on, to know how that process worked, and see how confined he was. Like, was it a mutual relationship that was good? Because obviously, if you get in a situation where some exec doesn't like this director, and they have sufficient power, they're going to be out forever. But and the other thing is, I think that we got better Star Wars movies and stories when there were limitations around what Lucas could or couldn't do in general. And that's not an original observation either. But I do agree with it, because you had Star Wars, you had you had The Empire Strikes Back, which wasn't even directed by George Lucas. So that just shows and proves that somebody aside from the source can take something and deliver on it. So like I'm pulling out positives and some negatives from Star Wars as a kind of compare and contrast. Obviously Star Wars, the fact that it is its own genre practically for sci-fi. Absolutely, give it credit where due. But what do you think?
I think, well, with the current Star Wars, I think, from what I gather, they want to give various how should I say it? Various voices a voice within Star Wars to tell their stories or whatnot. But when you have so many different voices talking at once, they tend to drown each other out, so to speak.
Well,
See my metaphor? There's and then
I know what you're talking about,
not every voice is equal in what's interesting and what they're saying. So there could be a little bit more vetting, and as far as quality material and what works and doesn't work, or maybe we just or just don't like what they think is quality there. Maybe it's thus, as some people have said, maybe Star Wars isn't for us.
Well,
this
that's the
current
thing.
Star Wars.
That if they're going to shift like that, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, I think that you should be honest with the fans and tell them, hey, you know what, guys, some of you older guys, I think that we would have a far different conversation nowadays if Disney would have taken that proactive approach in their marketing, and just been very subtle about it. You don't got to beat people over the head and be like, look, guys, hey, just so you know, we're going in a new direction, which means that we are trying to track a younger audience, a different demographic or whatever. That's fine. But, if you would be honest about that, then you wouldn't have half the problems that you have today. And obviously there's going to be, this is what I don't understand either. They can beat us over the head with exposition and poor storylines, and even token actors, jumping the shark, left and right there with Jack Black and Lizzo or whatever, which is, that's a total Disney move. But the thing is like, that's not necessarily an accepted Star Wars thing, but it just became that. And and what you're talking about, like with the, you're absolutely right. And the thing that kind of stings even worse is, and you've covered this ad nauseum, across all properties, not just sci-fi. Um, how do you have the ability to have good storylines to pick from, with diverse voices and with a kind of off kilter take maybe. How do you how do you pass over those that have already been market tested and approved, and then maybe put a little bit of a more modern, maybe an occasional wacky twist on it or whatever. You can do that
Yeah.
too, but it just
Yeah.
I guess what the bigger point that I was saying is, like, even when Lucas was limited, and even when he had somebody else interpret the storyline and the plot, they were able to deliver on it in both cases. So that is the hallmark of a very good IP, and Dune is no exception to that. Obviously,
Hmm.
it's a far different situation, but
Well,
I,
well,
I'm excited for it, that they
yeah. I
can
think.
do all these things at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think Warner Brothers, from what I can understand, is that they're all about quality. Now, not to say that every movie that they
Agreed.
make is quality,
Sure.
but they're willing to throw out, say, Batgirl because they don't think it rises up to the quality that they want. And
Right.
the fact that they've released some movies that you're questioning, well, why did you release this? It makes you wonder how bad Batgirl truly was. But yeah, I like them. Every big corporate company is evil to some aspects. And when I was younger, when I knew what companies were, and I never liked a Disney. I was never a Disney fan. I always was very anti Disney. In fact, I'd read about how they would sue like daycares that would show videotapes of Disney movies or something,
Oh
or give
yeah, yeah.
or
I
go
could see
after
that.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Very old guard
yeah,
Hollywood protective as hell about
uh,
their IP for sure. Yeah.
exactly. And I read about how they're very litigious, and they would just sue someone even if the person was in the right. They would sue them just to drain them of money, and so
Just to
they would
get them to
just
shut
give
up.
up. Yeah, just shut up. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I was never a big fan of Disney. So when they started buying up the stuff that I loved, like Marvel and Star Wars, I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. And when all the stuff started coming out, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's all right. But yeah, but then I guess you start seeing their true colors, and you end up with what we have now, which some good, some bad, but there's always a formula with their products, and with especially with Dune and stuff with like Warner Brothers. They complain about how their superhero movies are much more all over the place, whereas
Hmm.
Marvel's more cohesive. But I think in the long run, that's a better thing to do with like Warner Brothers was doing, in that you allowed each creator to be in the sandbox and create something unique, and and it was kind of exciting. So it'll be interesting now that they've got a singular person like James Gunn to kind of go watch over that, how things are going to be play out. But
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, and then one thing we didn't even talk about yet, as we go through here. Well, you saw. What do you know about the writer's strike? Do you know? Are you caught up on that? Into the world?
um, I just heard that it was happening. Now, with most things, with the writer strike, all these, there's a long cycle that happens when you're making a movie. It takes several years to make some movies,
Fair enough.
just through the process. So a lot of the scripts that they're starting to shoot right now have already been written. The only caveat now is if they go ahead and start filming it, they can't change anything. So it's going to
Right.
be strict script, to the script kind of thing. There can't be any rewrites or anything like that. So,
Right.
so stuff like, we covered the Burbs back on one of our
Oh yeah,
podcasts, and
that's
that was
true. Yeah.
filmed during the writer's strike. So,
That's true. Yeah, my understanding is that most movies that have already have a budget, already have
Hmm.
XYZ in you know they have all the resources they need to complete whatever they need done, so they're not impacted. But like on the smaller screen, like TV is going to get hit hard. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I barely
Yep.
understand like what the hell they're asking for, to be honest.
Right.
And that was even with like listening to Midnight's Edge and affiliated folks like the screenwriter dude who was like really going into it in depth. I'm looking forward to some
Hmm.
kind of like inside baseball explained kind of thing, because like I do remember when this happened last time in the aughts, and I I don't have one. Well, I
Hmm.
don't have a dog in the fight, I guess is what I'm saying. But like
Yeah.
I will say this, like thank God, thank God this won't impact Dune.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
think I can
Definitely.
handle that if we were gonna have delayed
Yeah.
longer than that. I don't think
Yeah.
that I think there have been
Hmm.
there's so much natural organic excitement around this
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
Is this going to be grow as big as Star Wars? No, probably not. But you know what? It's kind of nice when something brand new is out and it's still new and it still brings people together. I mean, for Christ's
Hmm.
sake. The other thing I would comment on the quality of Warner Brothers is they seem to have, I'm sure they have normal disputes like any other place or whatever, but there is literally several cottage industries that people actively make millions of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from talking about all the fuck ups that they do, that Disney or Marvel or whatever do, and you don't have that level of content on YouTube, good or bad, with Warner Brothers and Dune. I mean, you
Hmm.
have some aspects of it, but it's so minor. But it's nowhere near as big of an entertainment, a never-ending content creation machine or subject to kind of go from. So like there's that, and that maybe that doesn't count, maybe it does, but like you don't, if you don't hear like even with Game of Thrones and the House of the Dragons, um you occasionally heard a story, but you didn't have it on heavy repeat like you have like
Hmm.
with Kevin Feige or Kathleen Kennedy or India, all these things that like
Hmm.
are inside baseball that normal, and no, to be fair, what I'm talking about, the normal person, the filthy casual would never hear about. They wouldn't give a crap. But what I will say, I always like to go back to this. Like when I talk to normal folks, I'm like, oh, hey, what are you looking forward to? Whatever. You know, Nobody ever talks to me and says, really looking forward to the next Marvel. Like we're kind of quite a few years past that point, which is sad. And the same thing is true for Star Wars, just on that side. But
Yeah,
in
I
any
think
case,
also the thing that this benefits from is that Denis Villeneuve is not terminally online. He lets
ah,
his work speak for itself. You know, even
right.
with the if you look at the Blu-rays for his previous movies, he doesn't do a commentary on it. There's a bit of
Mhm.
a mystique about him where he lets the work speak for itself, and he's not like spouting out all these various maybe controversial comments on Twitter. You know, he's kind of keeps to himself. And then that there's something to be said for that, because I think the more time you spend on Twitter and social media, oftentimes maybe your view on the world gets kind of warped or skewed a little bit, and as the kids, the Zoomers like to say, go out and touch some grass, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and that there is true. It kind of goes back to limits. Yeah, that was how the David Chase was for The Sopranos. For a really long time, he left us all in suspense of like what happened. Did Tony die? Did he not die? Now he spilled the beans, kind of, sort of, a few years
Spoilers,
back.
spoilers.
Right, but even still
Yeah.
though, he kept his yap shut for like over a
Uh-huh.
decade. And I can forgive somebody closing their mouth for a decade. That's fine, if not longer.
Hey,
Actually, it was longer.
don't be a rat and keep your mouth shut.
Right, yeah, but that kind of that is I'm back on Twitter, but I realized like I gotta kind of like let my time go, and occasionally log in, not do it,
Right.
got fallen in that algorithm
Yeah. Yep.
dopamine hit or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, I say that because I think that Twitter just if once they get things settled, and you never know with Elon, but boy, wouldn't it be great if we had another place to like watch, mainstream videos, just in case, that isn't like some obscure thing that is based on Bitcoin or something like that, like which is fine, but like I kind of just want like I just want to log in and watch something. I don't want to screw around with
Absolutely.
weirdo protocols or something like that. But that D guy, Dune guy, I see it. I see it. I
Yeah.
caught you. I caught you, Dune guy. Tony.
Yeah, I noticed I was still
Uh,
a wise guy, so I had to fix that. But yeah, yeah. So I think the first lesson nerdum. You might want to check us out. Our video dropped today, where we're celebrating Free Comic Book Day, which is this coming
Plug.
Saturday, May 6th. So I'll be out there at my local comic book shop. So
Same here.
yeah, go out there and support your local comic book shop.
Yeah,
Go for the free comic books, but hang around and maybe pick up something that might also interest you and support your comic book shop.
absolutely. And tell us where you live and where your nearest to local comic book shop is. For me, it's Newcastle, just up the road from where I live. For Thomas, you want to
Yep.
give a plug to
Yep.
your favorite?
Kapow Comics in Sherwood,
Uh,
Arkansas. Kapow, pow. But yeah, they're great people there. Definitely check them out. I know in some locations during unfortunately during the pandemic, it hit a lot of comic book shops pretty hard in certain areas, and they closed down. So
mhm.
let us know if you even have a comic book shop close to you. I know. For some, it's maybe a 3 hour drive to a local comic book shop for them, unfortunately. So yeah, I know it's kind of hard out there for some, and but yeah, there's also if you don't have a local comic book shop, you could go to the evils of Amazon. They have the digital versions of comic books, and they also have graphic novels that collects the comic books. You
Not
might want to
yeah.
check out there.
The yeah, I wish the digital part would settle down because I got some kind of email from Marvel Unlimited saying that they were shutting down one line of something. I can't keep up with it. Like I don't
Yeah,
like just quit screwing with it and like why are you fighting me to
yep,
let me give you money to like go back
yeah.
and do the it's so cheap just to leave it
Mhm.
on. It's a cup of
Mhm.
coffee, couple cups of coffee every month.
Right.
That's why I don't care. But if it
Mhm.
goes up than that, then I'll
Yep.
probably kick it to the
Yeah,
curb. But
I went to Kapow today because it's Wednesday and new comic books come out. That's why I get the physical instead of the digital. I don't. All I have to do is dig it out and read it myself. I got
very true.
Draculina. She's the sister of Vampirella.
Oh, very, very cool. I look forward, and I was going to say too. Also, talking about our future show, our main event coming up this weekend. It is X-Men. So like from the early
Mhm.
aughts and the like one from the old and one from the new. We picked out a couple favorites and one or at least ones we haven't seen in quite a bit. But we're excited to break those down with you guys as well. But also, as I like to say, we have a big back catalog. So maybe
Mhm.
you're into horror, maybe you're in a more popular movie. We do big time movies, and obscure classics, or
Mhm.
semi obscure classics, cult followings as well. So we really love it if you could take a look, take a gander, and of course subscribe if you feel like you want to do that. That'd be great. And more importantly, sound off on the comments of this one. This one we're coming at you live. But it's been fun. I think we're coming up to the
Mhm.
45-minute mark, and I think Thomas,
Yep.
you are right, right on the dot. Anything else you want to share before you hit the end stream button?
Nope. Just we're looking forward to Dune. As you can tell, we're both big stands for Dune. So as the
Inspired this
kids
podcast.
say, yeah, yep.
Yep,
That's
yep,
our origin story as with Dune. So yeah.
absolutely. I've been Mike.
And I'm Thomas. Yeah. Keep your
We'll leave
water.
the light on for you.
Yeah.